So, you're thinking of moving to St. Catharines? You've come to the right channel. We are all about life in St. Catharines and the Niagara region. You want to know anything about what it's like in all of the Niagara region, where to go, what to eat, things to do, and everything real estate related? This is a challenge you're going to want to be a part of and see from now on. If this is the first time that you've come to visit this channel, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by. Go grab yourself a coffee or a cold drink, and I'll take you on life in St. Catharines. I will share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to make sure that you know everything there is about living here in St. Catharines. The last thing that I want anyone to do is make a decision to move to St. Catharines and then 6 months, a year, or 2 years down the road find that they hate it because I didn't give you all the details. So that's what we're going to do in this particular video. But before we do that, please don't be shy. Hit the like button, subscribe, and even turn on your notifications so you can be one of the very first people to hear of anything happening in the Niagara region. And if you stick around to the very end of the video, I'm going to share with you one of my all-time favorite locations to grab a fantastic sandwich that in and of itself is worth living here in St. Catharines, or at least coming for a visit. And the second thing I'm going to do for you is share with you how you can get $80,000 in your pocket thanks to the city of St. Catharines if you own a home here. So hang around at the end if any of these things are interesting to you. And with no further ado, let's jump into the pros and cons of living in St. Catharines. Oh, I almost forgot. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Scott White, born and raised in Niagara. Along with my wife, Ellen White, we are the realtors of Ellen and Scott real estate team living in Niagara, Ontario. Pros and cons. They can be rather a subjective issue, no? Some people like this, some people don't like that. I want to present to you the pros and cons, not from my perspective, but from the perspective of those tons of people that we know who born, raised, and live in St. Catharines. Some have moved away, some have moved here. But the residents of St. Catharines, our past clients, our friends, our family, all those people that we know, I've drawn all of the advice, their comments, and have created this pros and cons list for you. The very first pro I want to share with you is what I'm going to say is a deep sense of community and tranquility, a relaxing atmosphere here in St. Catharines. St. Catharines is home to over 145,000 residents, and there is a deep sense of community with all of them. Things like the farmers market that you can get your fresh food from local farmers is a great place to go, mingle, meet people, and get that community feel. The downtown core and other areas has a lot of fantastic small businesses. You can meet people there, you can connect with those owners and get that sense of small town community. You walk into the door and they make you feel like you lived there your entire life. Then we have the local events and festivals that seems like to be constant things happening in St. Catharines, especially in the summertime. Events like Culture Days, for example, they usually happen in around the fall time, September, October. It's a arts festival celebrating culture and arts of local talent and national talent. There's performing arts, there's visual arts, there's virtual arts. A great place to go, and it happens every single year. And then of course there's Lakeside Long Weekend. Happens in the summertime, in the July long weekend. There's all kinds of things to do. Family fun festivities, great music at the pavilion there, games and fun things to do with the families, barbecuing, of course the beach, and food trucks. I love my food trucks. And hey, if you're a music buff, then you're gonna love St. Catharines. During the summertime, they have what they call their summer concert series at Lakeside Park and Montebello Park in downtown St. Catharines, which was actually designed by the same park designer as Central Park in New York City. Kind of fun fact there. But every Thursday in the summertime, almost every Thursday in the summertime, they're going to have live, free concerts from local bands and some from as far away as Toronto and the rest of Ontario. Some really great music. Again, a great place to sit down, bring your lunch, just sit down, grab some friends. They usually have food trucks here to eat, and if Thursdays aren't good for you and you don't like the lineup in those, there's the summer concert series expands over to Font Hill, Also, Welland has free concerts on, and even Port Colborne. So you can find great music, not only specifically in St. Catharines, but all across the Niagara region, especially in the summertime, if you like that kind of stuff. That's just 3 of the festivals and events that happen in St. Catharines. And outside of St. Catharines, you have big events like the Winona Peach Festival. If you love peaches, that's the place you want to go to. Or the Port Colborne Canal Days, a huge arts type vendor activity with tall ships and great music. And then in St. Catharines alone, you can go to the Pumpkinville activity every fall, or the annual Top Hat ceremony, which opens the Welland Canal for services every single year. Some fun things that we do here that give that great community sense and feeling. That is a pro to a lot of people, that quiet lifestyle, city but in the country, small town feel. For some, that's a con. And I think that's what you find with a lot of pros and cons. It's a pro for some, a con for others, and vice versa. Some people want the big city nightlife. They want to have activities going and busyness. They love that about the cities. They love living in Toronto, being downtown, going to Front Street, going to the Broadway productions that are like coming out of your ears, seeing the Blue Jays or whatever happening at the stadiums, activities downtown. They want that high, busy lifestyle, and that isn't what you're going to get here in St. Catharines. We do have a lot of festivals, a lot of activities, but not to that extent or that caliber that you're going to find in the larger cities like Toronto, even Hamilton. So that brings me to pro number 2, and that is the close proximity that St. Catharines is to a number of other major cities. If you like the nightlife and the activity of city living in Toronto, even though you won't get that so much here in St. Catharines, though there still is a lot to do here, you are close enough to 4 other major cities to get that entertainment. You have Toronto. I'm right here on the QEW. This is a great highway to get you almost anywhere you want to go out of St. Catharines, and it's really easy to get to, either the QEW or the 405. It'll take you about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on traffic. On rush hour, it could be a little bit longer, to get to Toronto, downtown Toronto, where you get out there and see the Maple Leafs or the Blue Jays, Raptors, any of the Broadway productions or anything else that's happening in Toronto. It's about 45 minutes, half an hour to 45 minutes to Hamilton, to get downtown Hamilton to check out what's going over there. About 45 minutes to Buffalo. You want an NFL game, you can go to Buffalo there. You can watch the Sabres and Leafs there. That's what I used to do when I was a kid. And then there's also Niagara Falls, which is only 30 minutes or less from St. Catharines, and you can get into there and watch and do stuff there and get onto their airports as well, which all 4 of these cities have international airports. So that's a pro, but also a con in that because so many people commute from here, it's because there's the lack of industry. Healthcare and tourism are some of the major employers here in St. Catharines. So a little bit of a con here to St. Catharines is, even though we are so close to everything, these major cities, a lot of people still commute because their employment, they can't get all the employment here, so they keep their jobs and stuff there in Toronto, Hamilton. But that's pro number 2, and con number 2 is the close proximity, the easiness it is to travel in and out of St. Catharines. And the con being is a lot of people have to do that because of employment. So here I am walking along the Lower Seacourt Historic Trail because I want to introduce you to pro number 3. And in my opinion, that is the natural beauty that surrounds St. Catharines area. And along with that natural beauty is trails. If you like hiking, biking, or even simply walking, we have a bunch of trails that are both entertaining and challenging. This trail, the Lower Seacourt Historic Trail, is a challenging trail. It starts in Queenston Heights, Niagara-on-the-Lake, through St. Catharines, the Niagara Escarpment, and into Thorold, right to Captain John DeQ's home, my great-great-grandfather's historic home, where the foundation is all that's left. Not only do we have the Lower Seacourt Trail that I am currently walking on, there's a Bruce Trail that goes through St. Catharines, and the Waterfront Trail. Along Lake Ontario, up the canal, you can walk along the water, and that is more of a pathway, so it's simpler, it's easy to walk. So if you want challenging trails, an easy walk, either way, we have those things here in St. Catharines. We'll actually take you along some of the other beautiful aspects of St. Catharines, and that's the wineries. Yes, St. Catharines is right in the middle of wine country. So we have a bunch of wineries, famous and great wineries, such as 13th Street Winery, famous for its wine and even butter tarts. Or there's Henry of Pelham, a long-standing winery with deep roots in the area. And then there's Hernder Estate Wineries, Sons and Daughters Winery, and a bunch of other ones here in the Niagara region and St. Catharines. Not only that, we have all kinds of farms and orchards where you can go and pick your own cherries or your peaches, apples in season. And in the springtime, these orchards, when they're blossoming with flowers, is just beautiful, not only to see but also to smell. Worth coming to visit, not only lives in St. Catharines, is just those blooming trees at the orchards. Which brings me to the farmers market, St. Catharines Farmers Market. You can go and check that out, buy your fruit, current local fruit and vegetables, local honey, artisan stuff, everything you'd want to find in a farmers market, especially here in the Niagara region where you have so much of that available at your fingertips. Lastly, but not leastly, when you're looking at the natural beauty that surrounds St. Catharines, it's not just about being a land lover. If you like the sea or the water, St. Catharines is also the place to be. Right on the shores of Lake Ontario, we have a number of beaches where you can go swimming in. Sunset Beach, there's Jones Beach, and of course the famous Lakeside Beach in Port Duluth that I already showed you to. Long, white, soft, sandy beaches, a happening place in the summer with all kinds of festivals and activities. And then there's Martindale Pond, there's Beavers Creek, there's 20 Mile Creek Trail as well. All kinds of places to go fishing, swimming, or just walking along and enjoying the beautiful nature that God has provided right here in St. Catharines. Trying to follow suit with this video, presenting a pro with a corresponding con, I've been racking my brain trying to figure out what would be a con to the natural beauty of St. Catharines that you just got a glimpse of while I walked along this trail. And I can't think of something. Unless, of course, you think that it is by far better to pave paradise and build a parking lot. I can't think of a con that can correspond to this natural beauty. So I guess the only thing we have left to do is go to the next pro. As I said, from the nature trails to the beaches, there is no con for this pro here in St. Catharines. But I thought I'd come here to Sunset Beach so I could talk to you about another fantastic pro that is drawing a lot of people to St. Catharines and the Niagara region. Ellen and I are getting calls, texts, emails from people almost every single day inquiring and asking what it is like to live in St. Catharines and the Niagara region. Why? Because of the affordability of St. Catharines. Yeah, we have a housing shortage, and yeah, house prices are making things so much more unaffordable, but the Niagara region, and St. Catharines in particular today, is one of the bright spots in our housing market. The average house here in St. Catharines is around $635,000, and right here in the beach, that's why I wanted to come over here. There's a neighborhood right here along the beach. You can get a 3-bedroom plus 1 2-bath home right here within a stone's throw of Sunset Beach for on average around $725,000. One house here is a small house, about 900 square feet, and it's going for $600,000, $599,900. There's other houses over here, $729,900. The most expensive that I could see right now on the market is $829,900. And they're all 1,500 square feet to 2,000 square feet, 3-bedroom plus 1 or 2 maybe, couple bathrooms, beautiful places for a great location. You can find houses here in St. Catharines for around $500,000 up to $1,100,000, $1,200,000, and more than that as well. So the affordability of housing here in St. Catharines is one of the great drawing cards of why people want to move to this city. Also, the affordability of other things as well, just the general life affordability. Now, I must be honest with you, a little con would be that the house taxes are a little bit high in this region. St. Catharines has some of the lower taxes compared to the rest of the Niagara region. So that is one great positive pro for living here in St. Catharines, is simply the cost of living and the affordability of its housing. So talking about affordability, we also talk about housing. And that's why I'm here at Brock University, which is a pro, in my opinion, having a world-class university like Brock right here in St. Catharines. But along with Brock University comes, dare I say it, students. That's right, university students and their housing needs. Now, Brock University has their own residence, as you can see behind me here and across the street over here. There's lots of residents for all of their students, all part and parcel of their education. But when the students get into their third and fourth year, oftentimes they want to get out on their own, right? They want to rent a house with their friends, their 3, 4, 5 different friends, and be out on their own for the last 2 years of their education. And that's where sometimes a problem arises, because students, being what they can be, as I once was, I'm sure you were once was as well, they can get kind of boisterous, loud, and ruckus. Just down here to the bottom of the escarpment is some of the neighborhoods where a lot of university students will find rentals. We've been told by some of our contacts that when they move from the GTA or other parts of the country and the world, they ended up they didn't use Ellen and Scott as their realtors, and they end up finding themselves in some of these neighborhoods, and their dream home didn't turn out to be so much of a dream. You're going to want to be able to know where those areas are. Can you stay away from those areas where there is a more significant number of students renting in that area? However, this is both a pro and a con, depending on your perspective, right? If you're looking at moving here and living here, it could be a con. But if you're looking at making an investment, maybe you are an investor, or if you want to use investment in real estate as a means by enhancing your retirement, this may be a great opportunity right here in St. Catharines to do that. You can find a house, 4-bedroom house, fix up the basement, add some more bedrooms, some more living quarters, have 5, 6 bedrooms to rent, all going depending on the quality of the finishes and where the house is. You can rent these places out for $700 to $900 per room. That's what, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month that you can get to rent and build your investment. And the beautiful thing also is, as I told you at the end of this video, and we're almost there, I can share with you how you can get money to make renovations to do that. So here we are at the Meridian Center, which brings me to pro number 5, is the arts and entertainment that you can get here in St. Catharines. If you're into sports, we have a major Canadian junior hockey team, the Niagara Ice Dogs, playing here. Also with the Canadian elite basketball team, the Niagara River Lions, play here. At the Meridian Center, we have all kinds of concerts as well. Big name concerts. We've had Cody Jinks, and then we have Jelly Roll coming in July of this year. Sad enough, they're already sold out, but that just gives you an idea of the number of concerts that you can get here at the Meridian Center, plus other smaller things as well. Over here we have Brock University's Marilyn Walker School of Fine Arts and Performing Arts. Brock University and the city of St. Catharines, they partnered together and built the first Ontario Performing Arts Center just around the corner. That houses some really great shows and artwork, performing arts plays and productions. Whenever Brock University does a production, they play over there. So again, sports, entertainment, performing arts, St. Catharines is a place you want to be. And then you can go downtown, which these places are really close to the downtown, and catch a nice bite to eat before one of these shows. You can go to Beechwood Donuts, Mai Tai Cafe or Lounge, or Daisy Duke Bar and Grill, or some of the other great places that are right downtown. Now, talking about downtown, that brings me to con number 5. Con number 5 is what every Ontario city is dealing with nowadays, especially after COVID, is the increase in crime, drugs, and homelessness. As I said, almost every town and city is dealing with that, even the smaller towns and cities. So that's kind of a con for Ontario, not specifically only St. Catharines. But over the past 3 to 5 years, we have seen an increase in petty crime and this type of stuff in St. Catharines. But the good news is, and this is actually a pro, is that the crime rate here in St. Catharines is only 3.7%, which is below the national and provincial standards. So yes, it's growing here, but it's not as bad as some other places. So that's also actually kind of a pro if you ask me. You just need to know where you're going to move to. There are areas that are a little bit less safe than others, and the downtown core area is one of those areas. Like almost any place you go, any place you see here in Ontario, if you travel downtown, you're going to see some interesting characters. But all you need to know is where to go when you're coming to move down here. And I really highly recommend that you find yourself a good, qualified, professional real estate agent who really knows this area really well. Come to think of it, Ellen and Scott can help you out. So here we are at pro number 6 for living here in St. Catharines. That's our brand new hospital. Finished and opened in 2013. It was originally called the St. Catharines General Hospital, but it was recently named to the Murata Family Hospital because of a very, very large donation by the Murata family. Thank you very much, Murata family. It is a state-of-the-art hospital, the most advanced hospital here in all of Canada. It has a mental health wing, the first one here in St. Catharines and all of Niagara region, and a cancer specialty center called the Walker Family Cancer Center. It was originally designed in order to eliminate or at least reduce the need for us residents in the Niagara region to go outside of this region to Toronto, Hamilton, even Buffalo for specialty medical care. And it has been serving the Niagara region and specifically St. Catharines exceptionally since then. So we're going to go inside and take a little tour on the inside. I'll show you around a bit. So here we are on the inside of the hospital. As you can see, it looks brand new. It looks clean. It even has the Tim Hortons for those of us who like our Timmies, and a place to sit down and eat. We're coming in here also, as I said, the Walker Family Cancer Clinic is here, and I have a personal experience with this hospital. A couple of years back in 2022, my mother was admitted here. She was quickly diagnosed with leukemia, and it was in this hospital where that happened. And they took exceptional care of her. They were excellent. It's a great hospital. It's great service. So this is outside in the patio of the hospital. As I said, it's a great hospital, but that also brings me to a con of living in St. Catharines. The hospital not, but in general, the healthcare services in the Niagara region is one of the biggest complaints that I hear from people who live here or move here. The Niagara Health Services is one organization that takes care of, manages all of the healthcare services in all of the Niagara region. They manage and take care of all the hospitals, and every town, every city has its own hospital here in the Niagara region. But sadly enough, they are outdated, they're old, they are understaffed like most of Ontario is. So their staff are stretched to the limits, and sometimes the care and service isn't what we expect it to be. And Port Colborne and Fort Erie actually close their emergency wards at night. So those residents have to travel to Welland or Niagara Falls. So that's one of the cons of living in the Niagara region. Not so much here in St. Catharines because of this beautiful hospital, but also because it services right now all of the Niagara region, it can be crowded sometimes and have very long wait times in the emergency wards. But don't worry, don't fret. Good news on the horizon is even now as I am sharing and talking about this particular video, they are building a brand new hospital in Niagara Falls. It's gonna be bigger and better than this one. I believe it's a 12-story, 3.1 million square foot hospital, 469 beds with specialty services and stuff like that. And that'll be slated to be completed in 2028. So in 3 years, we will have 2 wonderful state-of-the-art hospitals here in the Niagara region to take care of our healthcare system. But until then, that can be kind of a con for living in this area. So here we are at the end of another video. And as I promised you, I'm going to introduce you to Antipastos, one of my all-time favorite locations here in St. Catharines to get a absolutely fantastic sandwich. So let's go inside, let me order my sandwich, and then we'll come back out and we'll conclude today's video. So Antipastos is a really busy place right now. So I just want to take some photos in there for you to get a picture, an idea of what it's like. It's more than just a restaurant. It is an Italian market. Great deli, fantastic cheeses, great meats, and of course they have lasagna and eggplant sandwiches, salads. I got for myself the Godfather. Spicy meats. If I can remember what one they are, they're spicy Genoa. Is that right? Genoa? Spicy Genoa, salami, Montebello, peppers, onions, and great cheese. It is a little bit of a spicy kick to it, but it is delicious. I was tossing between this and the veal parmesan, which is usually my go-to, but I went with the Godfather. Oh yeah. If you're coming to visit, move yourself here to the St. Catharines, you're going to want to come to Antipastos. It's a really popular place, happening place here in St. Catharines. So that brings us to the conclusion of today's pros and cons of living in St. Catharines. I hope it has been very helpful and beneficial to you. I think St. Catharines is a great place to live. There's a lot of pros to live here. We have great trails, great beaches. There's lots of waterways, vineyards, great nature, affordable housing here. There's a lot of houses here under $500,000 for first-time home buyers. There are homes under $800,000. You saw a couple of them for downsizers, people who are looking to leave the rat race of Toronto or the big city life, come to a quieter, smaller community where there's a real strong community sense here in St. Catharines. Much more affordable housing. And you get a lot of land as well with that affordability as well. We have a brand new hospital here in St. Catharines. Well, not too old. Another one being built in Niagara Falls even as we speak. Yes, the healthcare can be a bit of a challenge finding doctors here and getting the healthcare coverage. It is stretched to the limits at this particular time, but they are in the process of correcting that and making that easier and more beneficial. St. Catharines has that hospital, which makes St. Catharines really a great place to live in the Niagara region. Industry can be a bit of a challenge finding work, so there are a lot of people who do commute out of St. Catharines to Hamilton, to Toronto, even over to Buffalo and Niagara Falls, New York. Being so close to those places, making it very easy to get around to those places as well, gives you a lot of great opportunities for larger events and activities, Major League Baseball, football, hockey, etc. in those areas. So lots of things to do, lots of activities, great place to live. So if you're thinking of making the move here to Niagara, specifically here to St. Catharines in the next 9 days or 90 days, please do not hesitate to give us a call on the phone, shoot us an email or a text, and we will be happy to help you make this move extremely smooth. Don't hesitate to subscribe, hit the like button, and even turn on your notifications so you can be one of the very first people to hear what's happening here in the Niagara region. But before we go, I promised you that I would share with you how St. Catharines is offering up to $80,000 to homeowners here in St. Catharines. This is not a payback loan. This is not a forgivable loan. This is actually a grant up to $80,000 for any homeowner here in St. Catharines, whether you are been a long-time resident or just thinking of moving into St. Catharines. They will offer up to $80,000 to help you build a garden suite or a secondary unit on your property. Whether that is giving you space outside of your home, a garden suite as we call it, or even finishing your basement or garage. So that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really hope it has been informative, helpful, and beneficial for you. So no further ado, we'll say goodbye and catch you in the next video.